Hi, this is Luis Serrano from One to One Tech Talks, and I'm here today with Sebastian Jaeger.
Hey guys.
Sebastian, thank you for being here. Sebastian is CEO of Filmstro, but before that, he was a musician, a recording artist, and a producer. So, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi Louis, thanks for having me. Yeah, well, as you said, I'm the founder of Filmstro, and that's it really. I'm a musical director now at the company. So yeah, far away.
Yes. So, can you share your journey in the music and film industry that led you to establish this company? So, what inspired you to create a dynamic music scoring platform?
Sure. I mean, a few things played into it. One of the things I think is that I'm very conscious, as are some of my colleagues in the music industry, that we're quite conscious that we're basically very lucky. Like we get to essentially play all day, and we have a lot of very, very cool equipment and some amazing software that we use, and plugins and virtual instruments, and working with musicians and things like that. But particularly also the technology side. There's just so much cool stuff we get to use. And I think for me, I was sort of interested in maybe bringing about some experience for content creators, particularly filmmakers, but the more junior guys, sort of aspiring filmmakers, and to kind of get them to have the same amount of fun with music creation as I have, but without having to kind of break the bank. Because obviously, to be a professional composer, you need a studio, you need a powerful machine, you need various controllers, you need a lot of very expensive software. So yes, for one of the reasons I think is Filmstro is basically a way for content creators to have some of that fun that I have as a music producer, but they can do it without any musical experience.
And we thank you for that. So, as someone with a strong background in music, how did you adapt and embrace technology? Because, I mean, it's very different. Although musicians use technology, you create technology. So, how did that work for you?
Um, Actually, I guess with some difficulty, because I'm not technical, so I am just like everybody else. I'm an end user of technology, and the only way that I could create it was obviously by recruiting people who could help me with that. So my co-founder is a software developer, so he became the CTO and the founder with me. And then our first hire was also an engineer, a full stack software engineer who was very talented, and could do a lot of things, and touched on a lot of things, including the audio engine. And of course, the audio engine was the fundamental thing to get right, because it was unique, it was innovative, it hadn't been done before. But I guess the invention, it still takes place in your mind, in this case mine, and I don't think that's necessarily constrained by your technical ability or not. So, as long as you're, I guess, as long as you can realize your vision and somehow write it down either in plain English or in maths, that's your invention. Yes, okay, I couldn't implement it physically, mechanically, but as long as I could explain it, well, actually, that's probably more than half the battle. So yeah,
Yes.
so that's how that worked.
Um, so, what were some of the key challenges that you faced in the technology industry? Because your company is 9 years old now, 9 to 10 years
Um,
old.
yes, I think it's 8 years since we started trading. Seven full years of trading we've had. Yeah. Some of the challenges. Well, I guess we never really thought about anything, like many young-ish founders. I was in my 30s, early 30s when we set Filmstro up. I was just, very happy to take that risk and to try something new, and to bring adaptive music to film content generators. By the way, I want to also just point out that adaptive audio wasn't new in and of itself. So the computer game and the video game industry have been using adaptive audio or dynamic audio. It has a different labels, but music that changes depending on different parameters that are set. So if you're playing a sophisticated AAA computer game, even back in the, I'm going to say, late 90s, music was already changing. So adaptive audio was something that existed, but it had never been done for a kind of more linear workflow. So yeah, I've forgotten your question now. Sorry, Lou.
No, I was asking you about the challenges that you faced, and especially how these challenges have evolved because technology has changed a lot in the last 10
Yes,
years.
absolutely. So I guess the biggest thing, it's going to be obvious what I'm going to say, but I think not the advent, but the kind of evolution and the ongoing evolution of AI is an interesting thing to obviously watch and be aware of for us. It isn't a challenge really for us because it's something we can harness and just make our offering even better. So for example, many music libraries, including us, even though we have this innovative technology, we're still basically a music library, or at least that's how people see us, and many music libraries are using AI to help with the search and discoverability piece. So making sure that people can maybe start using natural language when they're describing a piece of music, that kind of thing. So we're excited by that, by just like everybody else. One thing that in theory is a challenge is obviously generative AI music. So where the AI actually creates sounds itself. But we're not really worried about that yet because the music we specialize in, which is the cinematic kind of film score type stuff, it's going to be many, many years, if ever, that AI can make that sound convincing or authentic enough to be used in serious productions. So yeah, other than that, I guess the only challenges are just every other normal, ordinary challenge that is faced by, a creative, which is what I am, who then becomes or has to become, a business person of some form. That is inherently challenging.
Yes. So speaking of AI, do you see it as a tool or as a competitor?
Yeah, definitely as a tool. Clearly, if we look at the market, then the answer would probably be competitor, because I think there are people out there, content creators, who need, music that is near to, well, either completely free or incredibly affordable. And those are content creators who just, for whatever reason, don't really care about the kind of pedigree of the music, the standard of that music, and perhaps even, no offense to them, but maybe don't even know or particularly care what the differences are. If at the end of the day, it's like all art, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if you like a track, that's all that's actually important. That's the only question you have to answer. So if a content creator likes an AI generation music track and wants to use that for their production, that's obviously fine, and there are lots of people out there who will do that. So I guess from if I put my consumer hat on, then yes, AI music is ultimately a competitor of traditional music libraries such as Filmstro or other music libraries in the world, because some content creators will now go and use AI music. But as I said before, I think for the kinds of clients that use Filmstro, AI isn't really the solution, at least yet, because of the fact that with Filmstro you can then adapt the music and make it much more what you need, in a kind of not completely hands-off way. I think there's something about AI which is still very hands-off, where you put in your prompt, you click a button, then you wait, and then it spits out something, and then you kind of go, do I like it, do I not like it? Whereas obviously working with a composer, which is the best way to do music, is very, very hands-on. You're deciding how it sounds, you're briefing another human being to talk to about how do you want this, how can they realize your artistic vision with the right sound, which is essentially what emotions sound like. And then one step down from working with a composer, we believe, is Filmstro, because we're kind of in the middle there. Another step down is just working with a normal, ordinary music library, because again, you only get what you've got. You can't change it. So yeah.
So let's go back 10 years before you became the founder of Filmstro, and you were a music producer, and then there's the AI, and suddenly a lot of people are saying, "Oh no, I don't need a producer anymore. AI is enough for me." How would you feel about that if it were you, if it was you?
Yeah, sure. I think
I'm
yeah,
asking this not to put you on a difficult place, but
no,
there's a
no.
lot of conversation right now about
Yeah.
they say fake music, but I agree with you. If you like the music, it's not fake, right? There's a
Yes.
lot of overproduction
Yes.
nowadays, so a lot of singers don't even use their real voices, and we
Yep.
still enjoy them. So I think it's the same case. But how would you feel? How would you think about that?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm going to answer your question, but in a slightly sideways way, because of course I don't know what that would be like. Because when I was still a composer, the AI wasn't a threat at all. Composers still got plenty of work. The only threat, funnily enough, was music libraries. Because the conversation then was, oh, do we need a composer for this, or should we just get stock music? But of course, remembering that stock music is all written by composers, so that there was no issue in a way, right? That was the landscape I kind of lived in and grew up in. But nowadays, yes, from my anecdotal experience is definitely of the art world. So I have quite a lot of friends who are professional artists or whatever, and they definitely see AI art, so Midjourney, for example, and things like that as a threat. And I can understand why, for sure. So if I were still writing music today, I guess it would come down to differentiation. I think musicians nowadays or producers nowadays would probably have to, make sure that they're selling the fact that it is authentic, that it's organic, and that it's real musicians and things like that. Which again is something that we believe in passionately. It's not about technology. It's about the blending of talent, real human talent, with technology, and that's what makes Filmstro special, rather than it being, oh, we've got this great algorithm. That's it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about well, in my field of software development, there's a lot of people that are scared because now artificial intelligence it can write code.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell them it cannot do jobs, it can do tasks, but it cannot do jobs. So you still need to understand requirements and translate them somehow into something very, very specific. And like Midjourney, you cannot just accept some random output that you just happen to like. It has to be exactly what the customer was requesting from you. So I guess it's the same with music. So maybe we are somehow safe for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens in 10 years from now, because it's evolving so fast. It's been only a year. Can you believe that?
I
Since
know.
ChatGPT came out. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess it's yeah, go ahead.
Well, the Gemini thing from Google is quite scary now as well. I mean, that's amazing. It's another step forward where, instead of just interacting on one modality with with the chat, it can understand images, it can understand video, it understands sound. So you're essentially talking to an AI, and you can use images while you speak. And so, I mean, it's mind blowing. So yeah, no, it is definitely a very, very interesting space to watch.
Yeah. So coming back to your transition from musician to businessman, I guess you needed to learn a lot about, even if you don't deal with that directly, because you have people to do that for you, to delegate. But do you have to learn a lot about, I don't know, like licensing of music and so on, all of these legal steps that people need to have in order to use the music that is produced by your application?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that was one of the really, really interesting things we had to figure out early on, because when I set Filmstro up, I sort of, maybe naively, but still, I passionately believe that ultimately what we're doing is it was an app. So I thought, okay, this is a software application. Therefore, all of the sort of sounds, if you like, that are inside, all the constituent parts of the music, they're essentially just part of an application. So will this require, yeah, how will this be treated as far as audio is concerned? Are these songs that are then remixed, or is each different version a new master recording that the client is essentially creating? Which, if that was the case, that would be a legal nightmare. So it did take us many months and far too much money on lawyering fees and things to finally figure out that actually no, from a legal point of view, although it might have been convenient to be purely a sort of technology company, we are actually a music publishing company. And that, I guess, I did understand, because that's not that far away from my experiences as a composer, obviously, because a composer is one small cog in the music publishing business, I guess.
Yeah, I understand. So as a techie, I wanted to ask you, so you started 10 years ago, before AI, even AI, was there any technology breakthrough that suddenly helped your company, like it pushed it forward, something that came up and you said, wow, I can use this and this will help me a lot?
Yeah, good question. I would have to say that we essentially just stood on the shoulders of giants, again, which is a platitude, I guess, of sorts, but it's still very true, of course, that, you know, everything is just an incremental increase from something that's already gone before. You know, I feel very, like I said at the very beginning, I feel very lucky to have basically experienced all of the software that I use day to day in my music production business. And so for me, a big inspiration and a kind of a sort of starting point was some Apple products. So they have, you know, there's a digital audio workstation called Logic Pro, which is probably one of the most popular ones in the world. And within that, they brought out a new plugin called the Drummer, and they had an XY pad controller. So just two, two axes, you know, an X-axis and a Y-axis, and you could place a point on this on these two axes, and that would then control the way the drums sounded. And I was just blown away by that. So it wasn't a new technology in that sense, but it was basically a new way of just conceptualizing how a musical change could be brought about in a really, really simple way. Because of course that's Apple's kind of motto, really. You know, every single iteration of their some of their editing softwares, they tend to make easier, sometimes to the industry outrage, because a lot of pros I know were upset when Final Cut changed many years ago now, from a serious thing to a more prosumer-based NLE. But yeah, so I think, no, there wasn't a particular technology that helped us suddenly unlock something. It was more a kind of an approach. But I will say also that in the last few years, though, ironically, we did think about making Filmstro for a browser. So, you know, just on day one, like we thought, oh, is Filmstro going to be a web app, or is Filmstro a native desktop software application? And actually, we probably would have preferred to build it for the web, but we couldn't, because web audio wasn't powerful enough in what was it, 2014, 15, yeah, to do what we wanted. And now it is. So in a funny way, history sort of repeated itself, and we are now building, you know, what we always wanted to have, but in the cloud rather than for desktop. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't need a super powerful machine to run the software, which is a side effect, positive side effect.
Exactly.
Good. Yes. So speaking of the future, how do you see the future of Filmstro, and particularly in relation to technology advancements? Sorry.
Sure. I think I don't see any kind of massive groundbreaking changes, other than to say something obvious, like, you know, when the really, really big technology players make a big shift or a paradigm change, obviously we, like thousands or hundreds of thousands of other companies, will just play catch up. So for example, you know, when Apple released the M1 chip, well, we all had to get our stuff organized to now support M1, right? So I think there's nothing going to change there. I think that some of the interesting things might be about how people interact with the sliders. So at the moment, for example, you can interact with them just with the normal mouse and just move the sliders. But, you know, we support hardware control via web MIDI or WebSocket or whatever. But if, again, in, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, something comes along where suddenly people can, you know, with some kind of really crazy cool little implant or some kind of other tactile kind of neuro device or whatever it is, start, you know, making changes.
It's your problem.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of, yeah, sort of Minority Report style, whatever. You know, if that kind of comes online, well, then obviously that's perfect for Filmstro, you know. So any kind of generic global technology advances, as far as user interface improvements are concerned, in the way we kind of interact with our computers, that will obviously all feed in. But I don't see anything else that's kind of massive, other than our own kind of very private, very specific technical roadmap. You know, we've obviously have got loads of plans, but I don't think they don't really answer your question about, you know, what actual kind of future trend do I see impacting Filmstro significantly. I don't. Yeah, like I say, anything massive, like everyone else, will just, you know, fall in line.
I guess so. So speaking about this, have you experienced FOMO, fear of missing out with all of these new things coming out? Did you ever fear that you were somehow lagging behind, you know, all the new things?
Yeah, to be honest, I try not to concern myself too much with what other people are doing, because number one, it's a distraction, and the main thing is that the main thing is the main thing. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it really is. Like, that's one of the things I learned, I think, early on. Diversifying too soon, too quickly, building too many products, it's all a distraction, because you've just got to realize that the main thing is the main thing. So for me, as long as my customers give me good feedback, people, when I show them Filmstro for the very first time, if their reaction is still the same reaction as it was back in 2013, which is like, whoa, I didn't know this sort of thing existed, I know I'm fine. If when I show someone Filmstro for the first time, they go, oh, that's really boring, and that's like that other thing that I do now on my smartphone, yeah, okay, maybe it's time to be a little bit worried. But yeah, no, so far so good, and no fear of missing out. No.
All right, good. And do you still sell the platform? Do you still pitch it? Whenever you walk into a room, do you still have this feeling, the startup feeling of, I have to sell, or I have to tell them about this because I feel like they will love it?
Yeah, good question. Because of the pandemic, I think I sort of didn't go to many of those meetings, although I wasn't in those environments where there would have been a natural opportunity to sell. If I ever have got that opportunity, yes, I do. I must admit, I love getting back into that enthusiastic early startup kind of headspace of just showing someone who's never seen it before, especially if it's someone who's like maybe a kind of a key decision maker, or someone senior in a different company or something like that. That's always very exciting, and I love it. But no, I have not had the opportunity to do that for a long time. So.
All right. So Sebastian, you are a CEO now, but you're still an artist. You've been an artist for a long time. How do you balance the artistic integrity of music composition and the technical demands of a product like Filmstro?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. So I think the way that completely dovetails in my role particularly is that I still chisel out time to essentially do the musical directing. So I have some music supervisors who work with the composers to get the music in-house, but every single piece of music goes through my desk at least once, very briefly, to sense check. And then our music supervisors work with the track to go through a very rigorous process to make it suitable for Filmstro. So there is no shortcut. We can't ingest music at a mass scale yet, which is a good and a bad thing, of course. We can't grow the library as fast as other competitors of ours, but that does mean we are absolutely forced to focus on quality, because it's built into our DNA. Like, every single piece of music is a massive effort for about, I don't know, lots of people in our house plus the composer. So for me personally, I also managed to do a little bit of writing still. I didn't for a few years because I was too busy with Filmstro, but it's now getting to a point where, like you said earlier, with some delegation and things, it's possible for me to do some of the customer requests, because we get I don't know if you know, but some of our licenses enable the customer to basically make specific requests if they can't find a certain track in the library. So they can get in touch with us, and then we'll brief that out to our list of composers. And sometimes I will then take a brief as well, and write a piece of music, which is lovely.
Okay, that leads me to the next question, and it's so becoming the CEO, how does this change your relationship with music? If any change?
I think it makes me appreciate it more, and I think what it's really taught me is that actually writing for a music library is very, very liberating, as long as the relationship is a good one. So if a composer has a relationship with the music library where the relationship is such that the music library trusts the composer to just write more music of the kinds of things they really like and are good at, then there's kind of no issue. They can just keep writing stuff they really love, send it to the library, and the library 9 times out of 10 will go, yep, this is fine, we'll accept it, we'll take it, right? That's very different to writing a bespoke piece of music for some kind of audiovisual project, like I used to do when I was a composer, which again are pros and cons. Like, it's really, really fun and it's excellent writing to picture, but you're not writing what you want to write. You're writing what needs to be written, which again, like I say, there's a thrill and a different kind of collaborative process there, and it's amazing to see it all finished and doing the job it needs to do. But it's definitely, this process has taught me that, yeah, if you can write a piece of music for a library, you have a more of a creative freedom, I think, because broadly speaking, what it is they like, and so then you can just go for it and do your own thing.
It's like the joke, about the graphic design when the customer comes and says, please make the logo bigger.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
your decision. It's what
Yes.
they're telling you to do. Yes, yeah, well. But in the end, do you feel you have a creative role as a CEO? A mix of creative, I'm putting here music and business. Do you feel like your role in the whole thing is creative?
Definitely. 100%. I think the things that I enjoy are the creative bits. I'm essentially the product owner. Every button is where it is because I've decided that that's where it should be, or rather, I've initially decided where it should be, and then obviously I have people who are better at that sort of thing helping me or persuade me that no, it should be somewhere else. But no, I mean, every single thing about Filmstro is still very personal to me, and I think that's what makes it obviously special for me. What makes my role creative, and it's more than just the music. So I think it's the product development and the audio engine development that weirdly does seem to appeal to me. Maybe I've got some kind of slightly mathsy brain. Maybe, I guess, music is maths to a large extent, so maybe that there's a good synergy there. But yeah, no, I don't feel that I'm not creative, although I have to say I wish I had more time for those creative tasks, because sadly there are still obviously a large number of incredibly boring bureaucratic admin things to do. Yeah, like managing people, which I don't enjoy.
Actually, I'm changing from technical to managing people because I enjoy it. But there's crazy people out there, including myself. So anyway, so yeah. Speaking about creativity, do you ever feel like the temptation to create something new? You said before that you don't like to create new products, but just for fun, let's say that you could have some experimentation time and you could build a new MVP, some new product just to try it out.
Yeah.
What would you build?
Yeah.
If you could?
Yeah, several. I've got there's a trailer maker which we are going to make, but it's going to take some time because again, I need that experimentation time. So I'd like to do a product which is specifically made for trailers. So, trailer music. I would love to build something which is like a kind of, again, it's kind of like an algorithm. It's like an MVP for, again, using Filmstro technology, but basically building something for podcasters specifically, or streamers. So where you can basically set some initial parameters of how you want the music to sound using the sliders. And then you basically say, okay, now just do that for like an hour. And then throughout that hour, the sliders will just, like a lava lamp, it will just very slowly, gradually change the sliders so that the music is actually, or at least mathematically, never the same twice. And it's just background, but you don't have to interact with it, so yeah, I do something like that. And then the other thing, definitely we've sort of got an MVP, but I would love to develop more an AI offering, quite a hands-off offering of Filmstro. Again, of course, it uses our music, which is our real music by real composers. But I see an interface where people can come and do a natural language prompt, then just hit one button, and then all the other work of like looking for the track, listening to all that stuff is already done. And if the user said at the beginning, oh, it needs to be 3 minutes and 11 seconds, well, that's already done then, because that's what our engine is excellent at. It can make music sound amazing at a really specific time, and it has a beginning, a middle, and end, and it sounds really musical. So basically combining that with natural language model search would be super exciting. Yeah.
Do you think, speaking of prompts, do you think prompting is making people lazy? Because I see that there's a lot of prompt sharing on the internet, and people don't even come up with their own prompts anymore. It's like they try to find the best prompts and they use the same ones all over again because they see the results, they like them, and so they go for that.
Yeah.
But they don't try it themselves.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for the general kind of trends and things, because I don't know how other people are using it. I can only speak for myself, and my interaction with AI is A, limited, and B, quite recent. So I would say that I think the prompt situation, it depends what you're doing it for. I think if it's a search-based activity, then I think coming up with your own individual prompts from time, basically ad hoc, is necessary still. So for example, instead of going to Google now, I will very often use ChatGPT, because it just is, I can just speak to it in a way that makes sure that the question is completely understood. Whereas if in Google you start writing more than 5-6 words, well, you know it's not going to work because it's just picking up all these different words as tags. Whereas in ChatGPT, it understands the whole meaning, and then it gives me a sensible answer, and I actually can go away and find what I was looking for. So I think similarly, for music library search, I think people won't necessarily need to share prompts. They'll just put in, training at the gym, just something like that, or pumping iron, or Schwarzenegger, or something like that, and it would just go bang. I know what you mean. Here's some music for your workout. It'll just do it.
Okay, so I guess you will need to develop some bespoke technology about that, because in our minds, a concept that is tied to how music sounds, I don't think that, I'm not sure, but maybe artificial intelligence, because it cannot feel the music. So I guess it can only understand beeps per minute, something like that. So yeah, maybe it can understand upbeat, calm, dramatic, things like that, but then tying that to Schwarzenegger, for example, or pumping iron, that's something that you need in between to transform those everyday expressions into actual, real expectations about the music that is going to come up.
It is actually surprisingly good already. I have to admit, I've been working with a couple of AI companies in the last few months, and they're specific companies that are working with music libraries. So they come to me and other companies like me, and with their new kind of algorithms, and the natural language thing is actually really advanced. It's not good enough yet for me to want to use it and license it from them, because when it doesn't work, it absolutely doesn't work. But when it does work, it's wonderful. And I think that's where we kind of are. If that kind of sums up for AI for me, it's like, wow, it's amazing when it works, but oh my God, it's really embarrassing when it doesn't work. So I can't use it yet for that sort of thing, but I think only another couple of years, and for sure we'll work with one of these companies to do natural language search. They just need to improve on, a few things, which I can't get into here because it's a bit too technical, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Good. And so coming back to your personal journey, if you have to sum up the whole thing, your professional growth, what have you learned by becoming a CEO after being a musician, and what are the key points? This is for people listening to you and maybe thinking themselves about creating something, but they are not in the technology field and they're afraid. So what would you say to them?
Sure. I mean, I think as we spoke about earlier, I think there's no barrier to entry, as long as you can articulate your invention or your idea in plain English, whatever, in your mother tongue, and in mathematical terms, and then it's about finding the right partners. And I think that's where probably my biggest learning is there, which is that, don't delegate team building to someone else. Be involved in making that initial team. Make sure they're people you can trust. Make sure they're people you can work with. And also, I would even say, nearly most importantly, make sure that you have kind of like a tripod, if you like, of a founding team. Don't just have two. Like, we started with just two founders. We had a third man who it didn't work out, but actually we should have replaced him rather than then carry on without him, because that third man was a marketing guy. And so we basically carried on. We started and did the first massive part of our journey just with technical, so my CTO, and creative, me. We didn't have a marketing person. And I think that ultimately, I mean, hey, if you just want to have fun and you've got plenty of money lying around anyway, and you sort of build stuff, all you need is a creative and a technical. But if you want to run a company and you want to grow, you need that third person. You need a marketing person. So yeah, I think that would be one strong piece of advice. And then the other thing is, like I said before, the main thing is that the main thing is the main thing. Don't be persuaded to hire loads of people that actually don't add value, certainly in the early stage of your startup. Like, if it's not to do with the product, you don't need them. Do you need a finance director? Probably not. Do you need an office manager? Depends. Do you need, how many technical leads do you need? Well, maybe just one, and then have five. Don't run before you can walk. And when you're walking, just focus on the product. And the last thing, I think, again, I spoke about it just a little bit earlier, diversifying too soon. I think rather than building more product, so different products, actually take the same product and maybe just tweak it and see if you can offer it to a new market. So for example, we could have gone into B2B many years ago, and that would have been better than trying to just develop more different products for B2C. So yeah, stuff like that I've learned.
How did you pitch your idea to this new person? Did you know each other before you started doing business together?
My co-founder, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, we did. We had a relationship before we went into business, but I still had to break him out of his day job and persuade him to take a huge risk. Which, as technical people, they're not. It's not the same mentality as a a creative. I'm very happy to take risks, but other people aren't. So that was interesting. So yeah, you have to be persuasive, I guess. Finding people to believe in you, I guess, because that's what it comes down to. Raising money again. You're raising money, sure, for the idea, and if you've got something to show them, then that's easier. But a lot of the time, what you're really raising money on is just like you go, hi, do you believe I can do what I'm saying I can do? Give me some money. Which again, that's a skill which, if you don't have it, then again, that's something to think about in that founding team. You need someone who can raise money, for sure.
Yeah, I guess a combination of all of that, like being able to explain, but also being persuasive, but also when you talk, like having this confidence that you can really do it, that you believe yourself in that idea. All right. Well, it's been super cool to hear about all of this. I think we can wrap it up here. I don't want to steal any more of your time.
Cool.
We'll try to keep these episodes under 30 minutes. Thank you so much, Sebastian. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being here. I don't know, any notes about Filmstro that you could share? Anything that's coming up you're excited about?
Yes, I'm excited about our at long last, we're going to bring out our proper version 3, which marks a long kind of arrival point in a journey we've been on for a while now, since we pivoted to the cloud. So we're bringing back a lot of features that people used to love in our desktop application, and that's now coming to the cloud, and that should be out hopefully within Q1 this year. So yeah, there's some good stuff coming down the pipeline.
Okay, I'll try it out. Maybe I'll add some music, some background music to my podcast and to test
Perfect.
it. I was playing with it a little bit. It is fun. I like how you have this bass track, and then you have like 3 other tracks that you can. How was that? It was momentum, impact, and something else.
That's right.
It was really cool.
Yeah, momentum, depth, and power. That's it.
That was cool. That was cool.
Good. Glad you like it.
And I can see how that can change a video.
Yes.
Background music makes a difference, really.
Yeah.
And if it's bespoke to your video, if it's not really bespoke, but it is, because it's your own version of it.
Yes.
So it's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for creating Filmstro. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for your time. And yeah, I'll post this video to YouTube and send you the link. See how it goes.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Thank you, Sebastian. Pleasure meeting you.
Cheers. Thanks, Louis.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.